fuck is going on out there? This is Mike. You are listening to The Sports Dope. If you're listening to this, you probably found it on Twitter or Instagram or the website. And if you did that, you know that it is thatsportsdope.com or at thatsportsdope on either of those platforms there. But the show is The Sports Dope. And it's that time of the week. It's Thursday night. It is about 7:30. I'm sitting here, and I have been pouring through some daily fantasy lineups so that we can do a little bit better this week than we did last week. And I think I got some interesting nuggets for everybody here. And when I say interesting nuggets, I'm just going to curse and scream and say, my gut says go with this guy. Not super interesting, but just minorly interesting. I'm just kidding. I gave it some thought. I gave it a lot of thought. I've been thinking all week. I've been fucking hitting the bong, chilling, doing my thing, and then, coming up with some fantasy lineups to play for the weekend for a couple different types of contests there. It's 7:30 at night. I just got home from work, so don't mind me. I'm a little fucking... I'm a little fucking jazzed up right now. A little, the after-work juice that you got flowing there. Shit is fucking dripping right now. I don't know why. Probably because I was in at 6 in the morning and it's 7:30. And when I say in at 6 in the morning, I mean I was there at 6 in the morning. And it's 7:30 now, so I'm just slightly delirious from the day. So let's get going. Let's get into it. Let's go through real quick, recap some of the two lineups that we did last week that didn't do shit for us. They didn't do shit. So, like we do, 2 lineups every week. The one lineup if you're doing the entire Sunday and Monday slate. The other lineup if you're just doing like the Millionaire Maker, the 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock games if you're an East Coast type person, 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock if you're a West Coast type person. So we'll dive into the lineup that includes everything first. And, man, this was ugly. Did not go great. Went a little bit cheap here so we could throw some big-time running backs into the mix, but it just did not work out. This was the lineup where we had the stack of Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp, and that generated a whopping 19 points between the two of them, so that is fucking rough. If your quarterback and your wide receiver combined for 19 points, pretty rough. With that stack, we went with Austin Eckler, who did dick. We went with Tariq Cohen, who did dick. We haven't learned our lesson there yet either. We went with Deontay Johnson, who got a lot of targets, but ultimately didn't do dick. And Deshaun Jackson. You would think on the Eagles team that's got no wide receivers whatsoever. I mean, I think a lot of people had that thought because about a third of the people in the contest picked him. So he was at 33%. So you're not going to... So that's another thing. Just stop where I'm at right now. When you're looking at these lineups and you see your percentages of who took what players, that's what's going to tell you how good you can do. But I don't mean how good you can do in terms of points, but how good you can do in terms of actually winning a fucking prize in one of these things. If half of your team is people that were picked by fucking a third of the contest, you're fucked. Like, it's just not going to happen. If you do wind up winning, you're going to be splitting it with fucking another 1,000 knuckleheads out there. So that's why you try and be a little weird, a little off-kilter. Try and, when you think people are going to zig, that's when you're like, yo, motherfucker, let's zag. So that's what we're trying to do here a little bit. But I guess I didn't do that great of a job this week. Deshaun Jackson, a third of the people had him in there because I'm sure everybody was thinking, like I was, Philly has nobody to catch the ball except for Zach Ertz. So it's going to be a nice little reunion. Nope. Stunk. Greg Olsen. He actually had a pretty decent game. I knew it was going to be a high-scoring game, high-flying game, lots of balls in the air out there in Atlanta. I think it's like the 5th Mercedes-Benz Superdome in the entire NFL already. Olsen had a decent game, though. 4 catches, touchdown, shitty yards. But, hey, he was $4,000. What do you expect? On the flip side of that, you got a $10,000 running back in my flex spot who only got 28 points. I was looking for close to 40 from him, and that shit did not work out. He didn't even turn it on until late. I thought he was a complete bust for the entire day, and that's Christian McCaffrey, $10,000. Chargers D paid up for him, did well, but you could have saved $800 and went with the Washington football team. That's what I'm doing in my other lineup. They scored more points. So I thought the Chargers D was going to be way more dominant. Bosa and Ingram to show up and put Burrow on his back, and that did not happen, even though I did a little bit of alliteration right there. So let's see. Next lineup we went to, this is the second one we did, was for the actual Millionaire Maker. We did a little bit better in this one. I'll tell you exactly where I fucked up, though. So, I had a feeling that the Carolina-Vegas game was going to be pretty high scoring. I was absolutely right in that feeling. I took Teddy Bridgewater as my quarterback. Not bad. 20 points for a cheap-ass quarterback, under $6,000. But when I stacked him with DJ Moore, and that was the wrong answer. I had Robbie Anderson in the mix, and I was like, dude, yeah, Robbie Anderson's a home run hitter, but DJ Moore is like the volume guy playing a shitty team like Vegas. Well, not necessarily a shitty team, but a team with a shitty defense. I was like, yo, they're just going to go to the volume guy. Nope. It was all Robbie Anderson. I mean, DJ Moore had a decent day, but he only had 4 catches, like 50 yards. What else fucked me in this lineup? Christian Kirk, 1 reception, no yards. Where the fuck did he go? Dalvin Cook had a decent day, 20-plus points. Ronald Jones did not do as much as I thought he was going to. I thought he was going to be a little bit more involved in the pass game. I thought he was going to be like, fresh James White for Tom Brady out there. Nope, only 2 catches. He did rush better than I anticipated, but still. Eckler was my double guy in the lineup. I don't have a double guy this week, maybe because Eckler sucked so bad last week as my double guy, but he was not great. Hayden Hurst, the other tight end in the Seattle-Atlanta game, didn't have as good a game as Olsen, and he was more expensive. I did have Calvin Ridley in this lineup, who fucking smashed it. Just got to come up with a little bit better, maybe combine the lineups, get the better. It's just about hitting the right marks, right? It's like, you ever see the inside of a watch and all the fucking, like, you can't even, I'm making motions with my hand right now as if you guys can see me. But like in a watch, like the gears all intertwine and I just got to get the right gears, the right workings of this fantasy lineup. So this lineup did okay, 130 points, not great. If you want to do anything big, you got to get above 200. That's what we're trying to do. I think last year our goal was to crack the top 100, and we failed. So it's still a goal this year, right? If you fail at a goal, doesn't just take it off the table. You're not like, fuck it, let me lower the bar. No, you go back to work, put your spreadsheets out there, download a bunch of fucking player information, and then boom, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, look at me, I got a team that's in the top 200. You hope so. So without further ado, let's dive into some of these fucking lineups that we're doing this weekend. So the first lineup I'm going to rock out with you guys is the Sunday at 1 o'clock throughout the rest of the weekend. So basically 15 games on this slate, including the Sunday night, Monday night game. When I do that, I always feel a little obligated to pick somebody from those games. So you'll see. As always, starting off with the stack. So if you listen to the Picks podcast, there was a game this week where was super low on the total, but I was really under the impression it was going to go over. Like, well over. I am just really shocked at the fact that the total was so low. Both of the defenses are terrible, but both of the offenses have pieces that can explode. And it's going to be kind of similar, in my opinion, to that Carolina-Vegas game out there. And that's the Giants and the Bears. They're both just hot garbage. They both have some explosive pieces. And I think that they both have the ability to put up points. I mean, the Giants even did it against a much better defense this week in Pittsburgh. The Bears did it against, a shitty offense in Detroit. But the Giants have a shitty offense too, so why can't they do it again, right? Why not? And so we're starting off with Mitch Trubisky. And look, you're going to be like, dude, you were fucking gross. You're going with Mitch Trubisky. Yo, fuck you. Last week, he did it in the air, and he did it on the ground. Like, that's what... Mitch has the ability to scramble. He can move around a little bit. It's not terrible. He had about 30 yards on the ground. And he had 250 yards in the air, a couple touchdowns. Like, he looked good in the second half of that game, and you can't really take that away from him. You can, with more experience. But you're not going to do it this week against the Giants because the Giants are fucking terrible. They are so bad. They're bad on defense. Like, they might be able to plug the run a little bit, but after that, it's trash. So that's why I got Mitch Trubisky this week. Little scramble action, little chuck the ball down the field action, and who's going to catch it? Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson, when you get guys in the news who are like, I need to get the fuck out of this place because it's terrible, you know what happens the next weekend? They catch 3 fucking touchdown passes. And so I think a combination of Mitch Trubisky and Allen Robinson, $5,500 for Mitch, $6,400 for Allen. I think that's a solid pairing this week. Allen was one of the main targets last week also. He had 9 targets. So he should keep that target share up, bang it out, take Allen Robinson, take Mitch, feel confident in it. And that's a pretty cheap combo right there for a pretty decent stack against a very shitty defense. Next up, let's run into the running backs. So Monday night, I'm not going with Josh Jacobs. I'm going with Alvin Kamara. Michael Thomas is hurt. He's going to be out for like 3-4 weeks. Who does that leave Breeze with? Emmanuel Sanders? Traquan Smith? Jared Cook? No, he's going to dump it to... Alvin Kamara is going to have 50 fucking touches this game. And the Vegas defense is terrible. It's exactly what's going to happen. It's the only thing that's going to happen. And they're not going to stop him. So Kamara is going to do work this week. Work. Like RuPaul. Next fucking running back I got, it's his first game of the year. He took the first week off, had a bit of a hamstring thing, practiced in full all week. That's Miles Sanders. If anybody can need some help, it's Philly. They got smoked. They still haven't, I think they're still 6 feet underground at FedEx Field. The fucking stadium has a name, but the team doesn't. How dumb is that? So Miles Sanders this week, he's only $6,000. Maybe he's low because the Philly offense as a whole look like shit and they don't think he can bump it up. But I think he can bump it up. You know, the Rams are coming off of a big win. What happens after it's an up and down league, right? What happens after a big win? You get a little bit of a letdown. A little bit of the air goes out of the tank. And you do some things that you wouldn't normally do. And Zeke still had a decent game. He still had a good game. And Zeke's not a pass catcher guy. Miles Sanders is a pass catcher guy. So he's going to do all those things. I think Miles Sanders has a big week this week. $6,000, lock him into your lineup. We already talked about Allen Robinson. Going back to the well on this guy against another defense who doesn't look great. Not a good secondary. And last week he only put up 37 fucking points. That's Calvin Ridley going down to Dallas. Matty Ice is going to be chucking the ball to him. They have one decent guy in the secondary. That's a Wouzier. And I think he's going to be all over Julio. So that leaves a zero nobody, like a fucking double nobody, to be covering Calvin Ridley, and he runs wild down the field, catches a couple more touchdown passes, and everybody's talking about how it's his team and not Julio's no more. So let's go with Calvin Ridley, $6,800 in our second wide receiver spot. Third wide receiver spot, I'm taking a shot in the dark. So Miles Sanders, it's his first game this year. This guy also first game this year. First game fucking ever because he's a rookie. Didn't play last week because of a hamstring in the lineup. Taking on another terrible defense. If you could tell a trend, I like to pick guys who are playing terrible defenses. It's just the right thing to do. So I went with Brandon Ayuk from San Francisco. Kittle's out. Deebo Samuel's out. They have nobody to throw the ball to. And the Jets are a bad defense, but the one thing they could do somewhat decently is stop the run. So I figure they're going to throw it a little bit at least. And for $4,300, I think that's a fucking gamble because... or not a gamble, but a steal, because if he throws the ball 20 times, just by sheer who's left around after all these injuries, he's going to get 7 or 8 targets. And against a bad defense, all it takes is a broken tackle. He's taking it to the house in the Meadowlands and dancing all over fucking Jimmy Hoffa's grave. So give me Brandon Ayuk from San Francisco for $4,300. And I'm actually staying in that game for a cheap-ass tight end against... Except this is the Jets. I'm going with Chris Herndon. Herndon had a pretty solid game last week. He's one of the better targets. He had 7 targets, and he's one of the bigger, better... You know, with Crowder hurt this week too, who else is Sam Darnold going to throw it to? Right? Everybody's kind of banged up on the Jet. There's no Lev Bell. Crowder, who took one to the house after a couple broken tackles last week, he's banged up. Chris Herndon had 7 targets. If all these guys are missing time... he could see double-digit targets this week. Absolutely, without a doubt in my mind. So throw Chris Herndon, $3,400 in your tight end spot, and don't even worry about it. In the flex spot, I'm going with Dalvin Cook. And he had a solid game last week. Pretty standard Dalvin game. They're in a dome again, but this time it's Indy's dome. No crowd, so who gives a fuck about home field advantage? Just another dome these guys are playing in. So give me Dalvin Cook this week, $7,600. They know I think they might even realize that Green Bay let them get a little bit in. So they have to know that their offense was kind of a paper tiger last week, right? They have to know that. So they're going to go back to their bread and butter, which is the running game. And Dalvin is a fantastic running back. They got to lean on it a little bit. The receiving game, like, even though they put up numbers, it wasn't there when they needed it to be there. So I think they realized that. They're going to do some more Dalvin work this week. And I think against Indy, that's going to be... I mean, Indy gave up a bunch of yards to a Jacksonville rushing team who has 3 guys nobody's ever fucking heard of. So I'm pretty confident that Dalvin Cook could at least do like a 25 spot against Indy this week, especially when Minnesota realizes, oh, that's probably one of the only ways we're going to do anything is Dalvin or Thielen. And so, yeah, we'll go with Dalvin this week. And in the defensive spot, I like to go cheat with the defense. We mentioned how everybody on this offense is banged up, but I'm going to take the Jets. They're only $2,000, cheapest defense on the board. They put up a couple points, had some turnovers last week. Granted, that was against Josh Allen, but still, they still got the turnovers. They still held Buffalo, not held Buffalo to a low score, but held them in check enough. And they're playing a San Francisco team that has pretty much no offense anymore. Jimmy G is a piece of garbage. He's not a good quarterback. He doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to, except for maybe that Brandon Ayuk guy, hopefully. Wink, wink. And, yeah, they got a running attack, but the Jets, that's the one strong suit of the Jets. Not really strong, but it's the one thing they do well, I guess you could say. I wouldn't even say they do it well. I would just say of the things they do, that's number one on the list that's good. But it's still not even good. But still, I think San Francisco's offense is going to look like hot garbage this week with nobody to throw the ball to and forcing to run like 45 times in the game. And this game could be like, if you could find like an under 28 for like plus 400, I think that's what I might be looking for right now. So yeah, Jets defense, $2,000. Give me 7 to 10 points and I'll be fucking happy with that. And let everybody else explode. So let's recap real quick the Sunday 1 o'clock throughout the rest of the weekend lineup. We're going with Trubisky at 5,500. Gross, I know. But Trubisky at 5,500. Kamara at 7,800. Miles Sanders at 6,000. Allen Robinson 6,400. Calvin Ridley at 6,800. Brandon Ayuk at 4,300. Chris Herndon at 3,400. Dalvin Cook 7,600. And the New York Jets defense at 2,000. So now, for the moment everybody has been waiting for, let's dive right in to the Millionaire Maker lineup. And you guys know I do like to try and stick with the cheap quarterbacks. You know that. And that's what I typically tend to do. But I saw so many lineups last week that one with like Aaron Rodgers and whatnot. I was like, play the matchups, right? So I kind of constructed my lineup a little bit differently than I have in previous weeks this year, or last year rather, because there's only one previous week. But I kind of, for this one, I wanted to play it a little differently. I started with the defense, cheapest defense I could find. Started with the tight end, cheapest tight end of value I could find. And then I started looking for the value players I liked. And as I filled in the sheet with value players, I had a shit ton of money left over. And I wound up going a little crazy with some quarterback play, and I think it's going to work out. And I think it's going to be good. And, Sunday will be the judge, so let's get right fucking into it. Since I constructed it differently, let's go through in the way that I constructed it. So I started with the defense. And you're going to think this is gross. And I don't disagree with you. But again, cheap defense. Let me get some sacks. Let me just get some points on the board with a super fucking cheap defense. And they're in the division. They always play them tough. Gave them a hard time last year. And I'm taking the Chargers, even though they're hosting the Chiefs. What? You're a fucking maniac? Yes, I'm a fucking maniac doing that. I know. It's only $2,000. But they've got those edge rushers that can get to the quarterback. They'll at least keep Mahomes contained. The over-under for this game is like 47.5, which is way lower than a normal Chiefs total. So I think people realize that this is going to be a lower scoring game that people are used to. So I'm not super worried about a ton of points. And as long as the Chargers can come through with a couple of sacks to bump the points up, keep me somewhere around 8+, I'll be very happy with my $2,000 investment.
Next up, we started with the tight end. Tight end, we are going with Logan Thomas from the Washington football team. And look, admittedly, I never thought about this guy. But he had solid week last week, 8 targets, 4 pulled in, one of them for a touchdown. He's the number 1 guy on the depth chart. They finally got rid of Jordan Reed. I think he just might have wandered out of the facility once they took the name off and just couldn't find it again because of all the concussions he's had. But that's sad. He's wandering around somewhere in fucking Pembroke, Virginia or some shit. But I'm going with Logan Thomas. He had a solid week last week out at Arizona. They don't have a great secondary, and I think Arizona's going to be able to put up some points. So Washington's going to be catching up, and so that means they're going to be chucking the ball. When they're chucking the ball, they don't really have wide receivers. They got Terry McLaurin, a couple other like third-string guys, so why not Logan Thomas? He was getting them last week. He'll get them this week too. Logan Thomas, throw him in there, $3,600. He was under that $4,000 level that I like to stay under at the tight end area. So now let's talk about I had 2 super big value plays here. And they are Nyheim Hines and CeeDee Lamb. So Nyheim Hines in the running back slot, he's only $5,300. Marlon Mack's season-ending injury. Now, that doesn't mean Nyheim Hines is going to get a ton more work between the tackles, but he is going to get more work between the tackles. But he's also going to be on the field for some more pass-catching stuff. So he was already a pretty good option. He scored 2 touchdowns last week, got a ton of touches, ran the ball. What do you have? I think he had like 12 rushes and like 6 catches or some shit. No. 7 rushes and 8 catches. Touchdowns, both rushing and receiving, and I don't think you can beat that. And I don't see much of it changing. That's the thing. And he's still only $5,300. When you got that PPR shit, those 8 catches are like a touchdown on the side itself. Take Nyheim Hines, only $5,300. The market's going to catch up to him in the next couple of weeks. I love it right here. And then let's talk about CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, rookie, had 6 targets. They're going against Atlanta. Fucking absolute trash secondary. They're going to focus on the big dogs in that secondary, which are Amari Cooper and, to a lesser extent, Michael Gallup. And they already showed the confidence in CeeDee Lamb that they're going to incorporate him into the game plan. 6 touches in prime time, only $4,700 in the wide receiver spot in a game that's going to be super fucking high scoring. Let me get some of that. Give me a piece, and I'll take it. CeeDee Lamb, $4,700 is my wide receiver spot. So right now, these are all my cheap guys. I got a ton of cheap guys that I'm pretty confident in. So let's talk about some of the skill positions. For my other running back, I went with Derrick Henry. Look, he didn't have a great game. And it's hard to say that about somebody who went over 100 yards in this day and age in the NFL. But he did it by averaging 3.7 yards a carry. He ran it 31 times, and he did not get in the end zone. He had a couple catches, which is nice to see, but really a pedestrian game from Derrick Henry. I expect a lot more from him this week at home against Jacksonville. They are just going to fucking pound it in there. The Tennessee receivers are banged up. I know Brown's banged up. I can't think of the other one. Corey Davis is banged up. So basically it's going to be Derrick Henry, Tannehill, and Jonnu Smith. And Derrick Henry is going to get the biggest piece of that fucking pie. He's $7,900. You're going to have to pay for it, but the sheer volume alone in this matchup is going to be worth it. So take Derrick Henry, $7,900. In my flex spot, I have another running back. I talked about it before. San Francisco 49ers, nobody can catch the ball on that team. There is just nobody that is going to put on a jersey that can catch the ball with any level of consistency. So what are they going to do? They're going to run the shit out of the ball. And who's going to do it? It's going to be Raheem Mostert. He's in my flex spot, $6,400. This is a huge volume play. I did say about 10 minutes ago that the one thing the Jets do averagely is stop the run, but it's still only average and it's not fucking good. And this is also purely like volume, right? This dude is going to touch the ball a bunch of times, and he's bound to break 1, maybe 2 against such a bad defense. So let me get Raheem Mostert in the flex spot, $6,400. I gave you 1 receiver already. Let's talk about receiver number 2. I'm honestly shocked at how cheap this guy is, especially given what this defense that he's going against gave up to the number 1 last week. And I'm talking about T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton in Indy, it's my second Colt on this team, And I think the Colts are going to put up points just because of how bad the Minnesota defense is. Look at what they did to Devontae Adams last week. They gave him up like 40 points. T.Y. Hilton is only $5,700. I don't understand why he's so cheap. He might think he's still banged up from last year. I don't fucking know. But $5,700 against the defense that just gave up 40 points or so to the other team's number one last week. I am jumping all over that. T.Y. Hilton is no fucking slouch. Phillip Rivers is going to get him the ball. I think Hines and Hilton, solid weeks this week. So I think I've given you everybody now, except for the quarterback and except for the stack wide receiver. I got fucking money left, man. I have $14,400, and I'm going to break it up. $8,200 Lamar Jackson smashing Houston, and $6,200 Hollywood Brown. Look, it could have went Mark Andrews and a cheaper wide receiver, but I don't think he does that 2 weeks in a row. I think Brown gets behind the defense a lot more, and I would like to think Deshaun and company with the long rest can keep it a little bit close. So Lamar has to keep the pressure on, keep running, not just hand it off to Ingram like 30 times when they're up by 28. So Lamar Jackson, keep the pressure on, keep scoring. $8,200. He had a very average Lamar game last week, 28 points. He's going to do better and bigger things, bigger and better, whatever the order is you're supposed to say those things. That is in store for this week against a very, very, very mediocre Houston defense. It's really weird how you could say Houston defense looked bad, but so did the Chiefs offense. Like, the Chiefs offense did not look crisp in that Thursday night game about 10 days ago or a week ago today. But still, they just made the Texans look terrible. So I expect Baltimore to actually give a shit this week. Dude, they came out like a fucking well-oiled machine. It was like a fucking military unit. It was like Bill Murray leading those guys at the end of Stripes. They just came out, boom, lock, step, smashing things, putting up points all over the Browns' faces. And I don't think that there's any reason that's not going to happen again this weekend. No reason whatsoever that's not going to happen, or whatever the right way to fucking say that is. So let's run through this lineup one more time. We'll start at the top instead of bouncing around like I fucking did when I told you, like an idiot that I am. So we're starting with Lamar Jackson, $8,200. Derrick Henry's our first running back at $7,900. Then we're going Nyheim Hines at $5,300. Wide receivers, we're going Marquise Hollywood Brown, $6,200. CeeDee Lamb at $47, only $4,700. And then we got T.Y. Hilton going against a terrible defense at home for $5,700. Our tight end spot, we're going Logan Thomas, the Washington football team's tight end in Arizona. And then in the flex, we got Raheem Mostert, San Francisco 49er at the Jets. Nobody can catch the ball on that team. They're going to run it 100 times, and he will get 60 carries. Guaranteed. 60 carries guaranteed. And then at the end, we're going nuts. We're going fucking nuts, and we're taking the Chargers defense at home against the Kansas City Chiefs, the hottest offense, the number one offense in the league. But we're going nuts because they got some edge rushers, and I think it'll be a close game still. So that's it. 2 lineups. Sunday, Monday, and then just Millionaire Maker, the main block. 2 lineups. Yo, thank you for checking this out. You can check me out at thatsportsdope.com. You can find all my other social media bullshit there. If you go to Twitter or Instagram at thatsportsdope, hit me up, ask me a question. I will fucking answer. Something weird happened right there, but ask me a question. I will fucking answer because nobody's ever fucking done that before. I don't know what happened. The recording just stopped as I was in the middle of ranting about how nobody's ever talked to me online. But anyway, I'm Mike. I'm the Sports Dope. Check me out, thatsportsdope.com. Anywhere you get your podcast, you should be able to find this. If you get podcasts in a place and my podcast is not there, you fucking tell me and I will make sure it is there the next time you're looking for a podcast. Twitter, Instagram, at thatsportsdope. I think this is the second time I said all these things because I had a weird hiccup. But really, that's it, yo. Thank you for checking it out again. Peace out. Good luck. Make some money this weekend.